So this is a different type of video for me on here. Hopefully you like it. I think there's a calmness in both making and watching videos of somebody taking care of their space. The vibe here is that I wanted to talk about the romance of not being able to put a book down. I haven't read much this year, and I'll talk more about that later, but right now I'm in the middle of a book and I am enjoying myself so much that I can't put the book down. Every evening I don't want to do anything, none of my other projects, no TV or anything, I just want to read. My sister was visiting me for a week and I told her I fell asleep reading 2 nights in a row, and she said, "That is so romantic." And honestly, yes, it is so romantic. Loving a book, immersing yourself in a whole new world and being so dedicated to it that you fall asleep reading, not out of boredom, but out of absolute exhaustion, is one of the best experiences in life. It doesn't happen often for me at all. I can count on one hand the number of times it's happened, but each of those times I remember with fondness. That week or month or whatever was defined by this wonderful experience of just enjoying every moment of my day because I couldn't stop thinking about this amazing book I was reading. The first time I remember this happening was in 2021 in December. I had 2 young kids, 1 2-year-old and 1 new baby, and life was so hard that the escapism was just what I needed. After a couple of days of reading around my kids and getting a little irritated when they had totally normal kid needs that required me to put my book down, I made a rule that I couldn't start reading until the evening, when putting down my baby took a few hours and I could just sit in the dark with her, nursing or falling asleep on me, and read. It helped me to have patience with her in those moments, and during the days, though I wanted to be reading all the time, I was also calmer and more content because I had this wonderful thing to dwell on and return to in the hardest phase of my life. And I'm so lucky to be going through that again. Almost all of the things I'm doing in this video are things that wouldn't get done if I were reading during the day. You're watching me keep myself busy so I don't sit down and lose myself in a book, but also, honestly, my mood is higher than normal, so doing hard, boring tasks like mopping are made easier, and that's that romanticism. While I do think that reading is a better activity to do in front of my kids compared to other sedentary activities, I don't want to be annoyed at them for needing me or wanting my attention, so I honestly try not to do it around them. Previous to this, I was in a horrible reading slump. These are all the books I've read this year. There are a lot of reasons why I haven't been reading as much. I won't dwell on it for too long. I'll just say this. I'm in school. I'm finishing up in December. I have senioritis. It's totally killed my creative drive. Reasons that are fully within my control are that I got really into Hogwarts Legacy. It really sneaked up on me. I'm not usually someone who plays video games, but my husband got it for me since I like Harry Potter so much, and I ended up loving it. I'm almost done with my second playthrough. The instant gratification is really hard to resist when it's relaxing time at the end of the day. Another reason is that I started this current book I'm reading, The Measure of a Man, which is another fan fiction. I started it back in February or March, and the first 50 pages or so were really not gripping me, and then the next 100 pages or so were barely gripping me. I almost put it down, but I'm really glad I didn't. So anyway, I just wasn't picking up my Kindle every chance I got. I've read some good books this year and I'd like to talk about them, but given my lack of creativity and my inability to write notes on them while reading, I can only really give a brief little blurb and what I thought of each book. The first 2 books I've already talked about, so I won't really go into them, but those were Until You and The Politician's Wife. Next, I read Spiral, or Uzumaki, which is a manga by Junji Ito. It's a horror-type manga. It was very short. I read it in 2 hours, but it really stuck with me. It's a super creepy story, and I really enjoyed it. I then read I Had That Same Dream Again by Yoru Sumino, because I'd heard really good things about that author. This is another manga. It was a semi-plotless, and I barely made it through. I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but I give it 2 stars. It didn't really resonate with me at all. Next, I read The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy, which I've already talked about as well. I had that same kind of romantic experience reading that. I gave it 5-star eye emojis. Then I read, or rather listened to, Dream On by Angie Hockman because I read her first book shipped a few years previously and I remembered liking it. It's about a girl who's in a coma for a week or so and she wakes up having all her memories plus some extra memories of a boyfriend who her family and close friends swear she's never had. After a year or so of trying to forget him, she actually happens to meet him. So there's some mystery element to it, but as a romance, it fell flat because there wasn't any character development. I gave it 2 stars. And then because I was reminiscing, I went ahead and read Shipped by Angie Hockman again, my second audiobook of the year. I liked it, but if you've heard anyone talking about it, you certainly heard them say Unhoneymooners meets The Hating Game because it's pretty glaringly a perfect marriage of the two. It's not as good as either of them, but it had elements that I loved from both. If you like either The Hating Game or Unhoneymooners, I'd suggest checking out Shipped. Then finally, the last book I read before the one I'm on now is The Girl with Seven Names by Hyun-Soo Lee. This is the second book I've read by a North Korean defector about their journey out of North Korea. It was difficult to read, but just as eye-opening and heart-wrenching as the other. The other being In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. It had many similarities, but I would suggest both if you're interested in the subject. I feel like I'm finally out of a reading slump, like a 5-month reading slump. And maybe it'll start again when I finish this book, who knows. But I'm enjoying my time so much. I just wanted to share that wonderful feeling of falling in love with a book and letting it remind you how good life is. So after I finish everything for the day, my normal job with its highs and lows that are slightly dampened by my romantic heart, I get to sit down and read my book. Until next time.